Good evening, all, wherever you join us from. I want to say a pleasant good night or good day to you. This is the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show, and we're coming to you live on Facebook. You could also get us on YouTube on the Guyanese Critic page. As once again, we're with you, and we have lots to talk about. Last night, the nation erupted, at least cricket lovers erupted into glee, happiness after our cricket team. Most people would be back in the Amazon until they lost a couple of games, and then they said we ain't going anymore. There would be happiness because it looks as if things are turning around. Let's see what happens tomorrow night. In the meantime, the people's business is important, and we are going to tell you a little about a couple of things before we get on to the business. As usual, it's our business to tell you, please take care on the roadways. We still see lots of nonsense happening, videos surfacing of the craziness that's happening on the roadways. This morning, I had to take my NDC. I think they're doing a fantastic job in the Grove area on the East Bank of Demerara. An NDC trailer pulled down the barrier that's over the new road, which the blockade they put it there to block the big trucks and so on. And surely it would come to somebody who's reasonable, who's living in the area, that there's a barrier there. The NDC is the one who pulled it down. So you put lashes on them when they do that, and you have to name and shame people, minibus people, car people, anybody who's doing craziness on the roadways. Please take care of people. They're the most important resource in this country, and we cannot. Every life that is lost is somebody's brother, somebody's sister, somebody's mother, somebody's father, and we could go on and on. Please take care on our roadways. It does not take much. It does take a little patience. Tonight, I want to say good night to my co-host Freddie Kissoon, and of course, he's going to do the honors of introducing our guests all the way from Region 6, Barbies. Freddie Kissoon.
Good evening, wherever you are, as I normally would say when I'm introducing the program, in the absence of Leonard, that social media has reduced planet Earth to one little room. If you're in Iceland or Afghanistan, you can go on Guyanese Critic Facebook page and see us. Our guest this evening is a very interesting man, and we will have to put him under the microscope. For me, personally speaking, Gildarie will speak for himself. He has been a disappointment to me, and when the questions flow and the answers flow, we'll get some recording of history. Mr. Gobin Harbhajan was the special delegate, liaison officer, project officer, whichever word you want to use, but special delegate representing Prime Minister Moses Nagamootoo in Region 6. In other words, he was the Region 6 man for the Prime Minister's office. He held that position for 5 years, and in 2020, he resigned from the AFC. For a man to hold that kind of important position in a government that every day was faltering, this is going to be an interesting discussion. But most of all, it's going to be a discussion that when researchers look back, they have material to work on, because I'm going to definitely ask him why for 5 years he stuck with a non-entity prime minister that had absolutely no state power. But before we get into that, I'll hand you back to Leonard Gildarie.
Thank you very much, Freddie. Mr. Harbhajan, welcome once again. And of course, let's dive right into it. One of the things that really stuck to me about Moses Nagamootoo was that video that is probably, I don't think I could erase the image and the words that came out of Moses Nagamootoo's head about justifying 34 and 33 as what is the majority. You immediately, I think, or just days or weeks after Irfaan Ali was sworn in as a president in August 2020, you resigned. My question to you, sir, is what are your thoughts of Moses Nagamootoo? Were you disappointed in him? a man who was close, as Freddie says, for at least about 5 years of the coalition government.
Well, thanks for having me, Freddie, Gildarie. Being appointed as a Prime Minister rep for East Berbice, and I also hold the position there as an RDC councillor. When I was appointed the Prime Minister rep, my objective was to help people and focus on development areas within the East Berbice area. And I choose Port Moran to set up my office. The roller coaster with the no confidence motion and what was happening in Georgetown, I did not pay much of an interest in that because, yes, it became like a little mockery out there. But I stay focused on what my objective is, and that was to help people. Personally, the whole thing become, I came from the AFC, and when this whole thing started happening with juggling numbers, I'm not good at maths, and I know that it became, we were losing support, and as a person, like Freddie said, being in East Berbice, that's a PPP stronghold. And that's where the whole crumbling happening, and look, Moses was my boss. I don't have the power or anything to change what he were doing out there and what he was saying with the numbers and the 3/4 and quarters. I stay far from it because I try to stay focused as me, because prior to me being in politics, my whole objective of joining the AFC was to help people out.
What would you say, and before I hand you over to Freddie, because you immediately, could it have been, because, you're a public figure in Berbice. Berbice is traditionally known as a PPP stronghold. And I'm talking here the East Berbice Region 6. Because immediately after that, you resigned, and some people saying that, you didn't want the kind of spillover that happened to the leadership of the AFC to spill over on you. You moved on, and they say immediately joined up with the PPP government. Could you give us the status of that situation right now? Are you employed with them? What are you?
No, that's after the election, the whole fiasco with the 2020 election, and loopholes in the Constitution, drag it with liars and on both sides, end up to CCJ. Right after the finale, the president would have swear in, I would have resigned. Now, at that time, I did not join any political party, and up to today, I did not join any political party. I set side on activists for development and ideas, and I put in my head that I will support any government. I don't want to see government fail. And with the knowledge that I have gained from 2003 when I joined, 2005 when I joined AFC, is that I'm going to change the tone, because the two major political parties was dominating East Berbice. So my exit out of the AFC was not to join the PPP, but I support the brand that I came out with was development and ideas. I would have conversation with the vice president and some other top PPP people, but not on joining them or anything like that. I would have met with the vice president, and and I share my views, and if collectively his administration is willing to share the same view as me and to execute some of the things that I see can do nationally, I am on board with the administration for development and ideas. I does not fall under any ministry. That's what I do, and some of the projects I put forward bear fruits in this administration and the previous one too.
I do not have any problem with someone like you wanting to join the PPP. That's none of my business. You live in Berbice. You have to make your choice. Most of my questions will be on the nature of you as a human. I believe there are times when people have to examine their conscience and say, what am I doing? Now, there are three of you I met, three of you that I know lived a long time outside in the United States, then came home and joined the AFC. That is a guy who currently is very close to Gildarie Harbhajan, but he has spoken to me confidentially about how he felt about the AFC and presently do. And that is Amar Chin Khan up East Coast. Then there is the person from Region 3, Karam Chan, and now you. All three of you lived outside. You knew what politics was like. You lived in a democratic country like the United States where, you know, people's lack of integrity caused them to lose office. Now, you were 5 years representing Moses Nagamootoo in Berbice. You had to see from year one that, look, what am I doing here? This guy is a joke. This guy is an appalling figure. This man is the head of the AFC, the prime minister, second to the president, and has absolutely no power. The country, the world was laughing at him. There had to be a point in your life when you say, what am I doing with the AFC? This is depravity. This is insanity. Sam Hines had far more power in the PPP as a prime minister than Nagamootoo ever had. So, sorry for the long question, but when the APNU AFC came into power in July, the jurisdiction of each minister was gazetted. Next to the president was Moses Nagamootoo. The Gazette had 4 jurisdictions for him. The Gazette had 18 jurisdiction for Minister Harmon. So after that long introduction, my question is, where was your conscience? Why didn't you say, no, this is it. I'm leaving back to the United States, or I'm finished with this depravity that the AFC is getting on with from 2015. But you served for 5 years. You served this fraudulent prime minister for 5 years. Where was your conscience, man?
Freddie, I'm glad you raised that up. As I mentioned before, he being appointed the prime minister, I being appointed his rep. Give me an opportunity for something what I've been long been pushing for, is to serve the people. My hands was not tied by him, or there was never a cloud over me. I was helping the people freely, and when I can't get it done through him or the ministry, I have a second position which I democratically would have a voice at the RDC. So I serve at that capacity. So I have no point. I look, yes, maybe he did not have that much of a power in him, but I do. Because none of them, not even from the APNU, never try to hold me down from what I've been assigned to do. And they know that. In 2017, we went up at war at the AFC with the same thing what you said. When I bring what you said to the table and say, look, after the coming browser card, this was X, this was I. I have no say over it, but I realized I changed my approach from 2017, and I just started to do what's best for the people. I could have walked away from the job, but I said if I walk away, then I let the people down. Walk away from the AFC, I started to see the different AFC from 2017. And then that's when the problem started with me and them. But I hold the position because the position gave me an opportunity. So I was not shifting the problem to Moses to be fixed. I fix it.
No, so I can't agree with you. No. One of the most disastrous episodes in government from colonial time to the present time. No government will dismiss, retrench 7,000 workers in one swoop. Those 7,000 workers would represent 42,000 people, children, parents, cousins who live with them. You are telling me that when those people were dismissed, you as a Barbician had power? You had no power. Those people were dismissed. And what is worst of all, I believe, sir, I would not stay here and say the sugar industry could have been saved. I am not an economist, but I believe sugar was in trouble even when the PPP was in power. But you don't dismiss 7,000 workers and force them to go to court to pay what is legally. Charandas told me, now you cannot tell me you had power, you were delegated power, when the AFC parliamentary representative for Bobby's Charandas told me he did not know about the closing down of the estates. And he said, Ryan Crawford, his legal colleague, told me when they're playing dominoes, people would ride past when Ryan and Charandas playing dominoes. People would ride past the sugar workers and cuss down Charandas. So what power you had, sir?
Freddie, you misunderstood the special Prime Minister rep and his function in Berbice. My function was not to make decision and Gaisuku NIS GRA. That was a national issue. Yes, Charandas may be playing dominoes and people passing. I was being protested. People protest my office because of that. I did bring it up to the hierarchies and let them know what was going on in Berbice, which was AFC mostly stronghold. So I tell them then our dashboard was flashing red. Something is wrong, but remember, the position that I have was I have no say over what decision Gaisuku make. I would have given my opinion beside of the job, but when it comes to fixing people basic problem, street dam trench, and I was doing that. As far as the decision bodies who make the decision with the Gaisuku, would I agree with it? No. Would I would have said there was another avenue? Yes. I remember clearly, and that when Nan Prasad has, after that happened, I started to, like I said, I started to use my own initiative and see, look, this is Berbice, this is where the sugar workers, only rice and sugar. So this is where the people was looking for a way. So Nan Prasad came in with a bid to take over Skeldon, which they would engage Pepsi. I sit in a couple of those meetings with Moses, a few meetings with Moses, Holder, his PS, and the board of Gaisuku. So there is only so much I could have put there. I could not just, I don't have the power at that level to say, look, y'all don't do this. So I could only speak to them.
So sorry, Leonard, just a quick one. So you're telling us that your role was to fix a trench, to put a bridge over a trench. Those kind of inconsequentialities, I withdraw that. That doesn't sound good.
That doesn't sound good.
That doesn't sound good, and I apologize. Sometimes I put my foot in my mouth, and I think most
Basic
people. But
problem.
you're telling me that serious power to transform the lives of Berbicians, you didn't have that power?
No, I didn't. That was, like you said, if you, your early statement said, the Prime Minister has no power, then if he doesn't have power in that decision body, I am at the bottom, but I make sure I fulfill what I was paid to do, and that trench and dams and these things. Remember, Berbice is predominantly agriculture, Gaisuku. People have other problems, land, NIS, GRA, bills, and however they have, and police matter. So remember, the coalition did not won East Berbice. It was won by the PPP. They have 20 seats at the RDC. The coalition then, which I was part of the RDC, we have 9. Everything you put forward. Maybe the RDC then put up a fight. I remember that clearly. And I changed my approach, and I started to not to go with the line of the party line. Then I started to play. If the PPP put something at the RDC and it benefit the people, I support it. If I put something, we work like that, because I see where that was headed, and that's when I started to get problem with them. I sit in the agriculture committee, so this is where the little power came in, what you're talking about the Gaisuku now. I sit in the agriculture committee. This Gaisuku thing keep coming up there, and then, they keep pressuring me, look, you're working for the Prime Minister. But I remember the former chief of staff, I started to work through him to get to the Prime Minister and tell him, you know, this Gaisuku thing here is bringing big problem, and some of the Gaisuku workers would have voted in the 2015 and 2011 election for the AFC, and I think we're losing them. And in the press release I make when I resigned, I said we lost touch with the grassroots people, and that's would be one of the problem there.
But you resigned after serving the AFC for the 5 years of its term.
I have as a prime, you see, people, when I serve as a prime minister rep, it's like a job with the chief of staff. You sign a contract, you have your period of time. When the new government take office, I have a couple of months more, I wait it out. I could have walked away and lose that, but I have a contract. I could not just come out and, and walk away from that. Based on that, the contract would hold me liable if they want to play bad and say, well, you break your contract. I stayed out and I just, an easy transition. And then I gone and I branded myself and come back. Because if I would have walked out when you said Moses has no power and the coalition chew him up, yes, but he gave me that position. I did not want to, if I would have taken that party line and said, man, you not get power, let me resign then. Then remember, prior to going to politics, I was always a community CDC activist. So this was an opportunity to use the coalition, not use it, to get to the coalition minister to fix X and Y problem in different ministries that affect in the region. Because you could not take it to the region, because remember the region was controlled by the PPP. So I want to get it fixed. What do? You're damn if you do, you're damn if you don't. You have to take one approach. If Moses has no power, what do? I stay powerless. So I lose out whatever little ties I got, and I start do freely. Yes, Ramjatan and Patterson, a few others did not like what I was doing. It was all over the press. We exchanged what was happening. But I stand my grounds, because I am not into politics for position or finance. I'm okay. But it's for the people, and I continue to do that up to today since I left. My office see about 10 to 15 person a day, as much as I don't have a portfolio on it.
Mr. Harbhajan, just a follow-up on that Gaisuku question. You would have had some insider's knowledge, I presume, you were an executive of the AFC. Could you say who took the decision to send home 7,000 workers? Who were the persons involved? Name names.
Gildarie, that would be a collective cabinet decision at the time, the way I understand it, right? Because when that came out, a lot of executive AFC members would have shared the views. I have discussion with Carrington, I would have it with Trotman and people who I would have, close with over the years. But we were not the people with the voice then. And if you ask me who made that decision, the AFC would have been a situation, I don't even know they was part of the decision.
That's what I'm trying to get.
I mean, if I sit here and I say, look, they would have, I can remember when the Nan Prasad had an interest to buy Skellen. I attend 1-2 meeting where I meet the Prime Minister. Three times we discussed that with the investor. One of the investors was Pepsi. They know about it. We meet the holder 2 times on it. We meet with the board in Albion at the compound. So they could have, like you said, the workers, if they would have sell this thing then, I mean, the workers maybe would have more workers, but I don't know who was making the decision. All I hear that Nan Prasad pull out because they keep getting the investor in a royal run around. And today, when people have an urge to buy something and they push around and then that gone, it's hard to get them back.
So conclusion there, Mr. Harbhajan, you're saying that it was a collective decision with the APNO AFC, based on your knowledge, that took a decision to close the sugar estates.
What I see afterward, what Kemraj was coming out with on a few of his statement, that I was leaning towards more it was a APNO decision, but sometimes he just makes statement about well look, Gaisuku losing money, then he lead me to be that maybe he were part of it.
All right. Let's shift to Barby's very important place, 4 estates We have 17 NDCs. There's almost 300 councils we're talking about there. And we have an RDC for the entire Region 6, which is a 30 member council. I have an issue, and I think the Michael Rodriguez would have spoken about it the other day, and this has been something they've been quarreling about. There has been some laws passed within the last couple of years with regards to giving more powers to the local government organs, but they seem not to realize it. They seem not to realize the kind of power and the kind of the things that you could be able to do to rejuvenate, to live the neighborhoods, and how you could collect money and so on. Are our NDCs and RDC in Berbice working? What are the problems that we're facing?
I'll go more. Does the RDC and the NDC work nationally? You have central government, local government, which is a good system to me. You just mentioned 17 NDC in East Berbice, which is approximately 300 NDC councillors, plus you have 30 or 29 RDC councillors, plus you have 3 municipality mayors, then you have NDC chairman, and then you have MPs. Gildarie, most of those councillors for these NDC out of the 300 is politically appointed and put their names during the national list when they put it. So when the party win, they extract from that list, and most time they have the party people. These councillors does not, I don't know if they know what is the democratic right to represent the constituency. If the 300 councillors that we use Berbice as an example in other region do 10% of what they sign up for, this government or any government will look good, because the problem is not at central government, it's most in the local government, because every NDC has a works committee, a decision-making body. They make decision, they make their own budget, send it to the RDC. The RDC has a function too. So as the question, these councillors to me is not functioning. When I was there, as much as we were 9, the coalition side, I used to make sure that my voice be heard, and whatever I put forward, I read every minute. Some of these councillors go to the RDC or the NDC, they don't even read the minutes. So how they going to know if Freddie Kissoon community need an upgrade or not? They don't, because what they do before this meeting, and it's important that I talk about it, both major political party will have a monthly caucus before the meeting, and they set site over. I never attend one of that, because if you're going to ask me to follow your line, then I don't need to attend the meeting. I just write a note and send it. So we need to drift away. As I think the vice president or somebody would have mentioned that most of the NDCs in this country is failing them. Because of what? Right? So every region has an RDC. All 10 regions make up their own budget, then send it to central government. We at the bottom now, or the people at the bottom, believe that government is doing the damage, but I personally believe it's at the local level.
You know, the way you're presenting yourself this evening, Mr. Harbhajan, as if you, at least I get that impression. It doesn't mean that it's so, but I could only speak for myself. The way you're presenting yourself is as if you were an emissary of the Prime Minister, and it begins and ends there. I lived in Guyana for the 5 years the AFC was in power. I began to criticize the AFC in power from day one. I was finished with them from May when they got into power. They signed a big salary increase for themselves. They began to behave even worse than the PNC, because people trusted them more than they trusted the PNC. Now, you, from all I've known Guyana in those 5 years, you were a well-known Berbice activist for the AFC. Here is my question. As an activist, when you get together, you called Michael Carrington's name just now. When you and Michael Carrington and Charan get together, were you ever concerned? Did you guys talk among yourselves, look, something is going wrong here. people all over Guyana gravitated to the AFC. The AFC's behaving worse than a swine. What were you guys discussing as the AFC began to falter and behave worse than anything we've seen from the two political parties?
Freddie, we did. 2017.
So tell us some of the things you and Carrington and Charandas discussed.
Not Charandas, it was more of, we got the former GS, what was his name again?
Patterson, David Patterson.
Not the Patterson, the other one, before Patterson.
The former GS, Marlon
Williams, right. Marlon Williams, Leno Craig, myself, Nicola Trotman. We were on you have the national executive, and we were on the second tier executive. I started to reach out to them in 2017, and we having discussion, but we can only share among ourselves what's happening. We don't know what was taking place with the executive and the APNU and what decision they were making. I sense to it, and what I say come to reality, because in 2018, when the AFC contested the local government election in East Berbice, we only have one seat at an NDC, and I think they have another one in New Amsterdam at a municipality. But that alone would approve what we were saying, that, we are losing grounds. We need to look, and we were not getting that. I don't know what's the position problem on top, but I keep focused on people at the time, because if I'm not getting hearing at the executive, if you go back, and you can ask some of the AFC colleagues, I'm sure you're familiar with them. I had discussion with Marlon, who was a GS at the time, and I keep pressuring him that that things are not going right. I'm going to take a different path here.
Let me ask you a question for the researcher. When the researcher ready to write about Nagamootoo and the sordid period of AFC, what is your frank philosophical, intellectual, and political opinions packed into one delivery of Moses Nagamootoo?
A good politician.
You are describing Moses Nagamootoo as a good politician?
There's a difference between politician and administration. Politician, anyone can be a politician. Administration can be something different. So there's a difference in a politician. Over the year, I remember he was with the PPP for 45 years. I only met him when he came for AFC. I didn't know him before that. I heard his name. But as a politician is like a salesman, and I was one.
So you're saying that a good talker, a good liar? And
What politics? Politics.
No, you made a broad statement here, and people are looking at you. You're going to get into the arena of queries. Mr. Harbhajan, in your own simple way, what is a good politician? And when you make that typology, apply it to Nagamootoo, I am contending that he's one of the worst politicians. Deceptive, deceitful, ignominious failure in Caribbean politics. That's my opinion. I don't expect you to accept that. I want you to reject that and defend Nagamootoo. Can you please do that?
Freddie, in politics, the objective is vote. Right? You said it there. In politics, in any part of the world, right, your main objective is to get vote. And what do? You deliver. You came out, you deliver, you convince people. And all it happened in mighty United States, isn't it? So politician, Moses been around 45 years. He was with the PPP, who now in government. He must have been a good politician to stay so long. I don't know what was the problem. But if you ask me, when you say earlier his style of managing or how he was doing the prime minister, that's more of a corporate administration. But a politician does not make a good corporation leader. That can be different. You have to define, maybe in politics, you have to separate the politics from the administration. A politician, I can pick up a guy in the street.
It's impossible to separate.
You can't separate it.
You can't separate it.
But you can't separate it. But remember, It's like it's like an insurance salesman. You sell a package. That's what politics are. So you ask me to defend.
If you're saying, Mr. Harbhajan, that he's a good talker, he's a good orator, there's a different.
Well, that's what I meant.
I think that's what you
No,
want
I
to
wasn't
say.
talking about that.
Yeah, I think
you
that's what
have
you
to
want to say.
define his character. Who is the man? Do you think this man had substance? Do you think this was a principled human?
But
We're not talking about thing
a
about
politician,
our tree.
Freddie, like Gildarie said, a politician is a good talker. Maybe I would quote it different.
That's not only true. There's much more to politicians than being a good talker.
But most of them are a good talker.
Some of them can't talk properly, but people vote for them because people see them as having integrity. I don't think Mia Motley is as a good talker. I think she's not a Caribbean.
The culture in Barbados
but
is
people,
different from Guyana politics.
Oh, but let's talk about that then. Let's come on, let's talk.
How you change
come
it?
on, let's talk about that. Let's talk about
why
that.
Why you think when I decided, like you said that when I left the AF, when I resigned, that I would have look, well, you want to join the PPP. I saw that both major political party, and I picked the line and I branded myself as an activist for development and ideas. And I realized that sometimes people like us will try to change people's mindset and the way they think to break that cycle. So, but the style of voting in this country, you wrote about this, is that it's taking two lines, it's race line. Now, when you drop a guy like Moses in Berbice, right, or you drop a Ramjatan in a Sikubo or a Jagdeo in any, remember, these guys go there, they market their party, they market themselves for what they will put. And that's how people pick the line of voting. Now, when you get in government, the delivering part, that's where people will judge to know what they, if to trust or not to trust. And like you said, during the career of Moses, he have an opportunity when he become prime minister, first vice president, and this big position you mentioned, and he didn't deliver. That's what you said. But does that, then you separate the administration from that? Maybe he not, like you said, maybe he was squeezed. I'm not defending him, but you asked me in one thing, I said the man is a politician, good politician, because he know to speak and he know to get the...
Well, I think
I don't have to agree with you.
I don't want to belabor the point, but there is much more. I'm sorry to be so emphatic and gesticulative, but there's much more to a politician than arbitrary, eloquent speaking, etc. Burnham was one of the best grammatical deliverer in politics, but Dr. Jagan had towered over him in terms of integrity. Burnham would sign your death warrant. I don't think Jagan would ever sign anybody's death warrant. So a politician is much more than Mr. Harbhajan. For someone who lived so long outside and served in a position of power for 5 years, you must know there's a whole ocean of values that go into making a politician. My question to you, and I will rephrase it. Do you think Moses Nagamootoo is essentially a rascal?
What's the rascal?
A rascal means a bad person who deceives people and is interested in himself only.
I don't have that experience with him, and I can't label anyone as bad or whatever person.
You can label.
The only affiliation when I was assigned to that position, I make sure my hands was not tied, and that's what the level that office give me to help people. As far as what he was doing and how he was doing his job, is different from mine. But I can't just, if he would have shown me that side of it, maybe you see it on a different level, but I can't boldly come out and label him as that. As much as maybe I as been with the AFC so long, and he came in, I think, 2011, all I know him by speak, and every forum we carry on, we got the crowd. That's about it. But yes, when the whole thing with the no confidence motion and the whole roller coaster came out, I mean, do I agree with what happened? The answer is no.
Sorry, Leonard. I have to get in this one before. Would you like to watch our viewers in front of their face in the camera and apologize to Charandas Prasad?
Apologize to Charandas Prasad? What did I do to Charandas Prasad?
You were part of the AFC and they expelled that man. And at the time of his expulsion, there was no word from you that that was wrong. But don't you think, therefore, as part of the AFC, you can now belatedly look back at it and say, Charan, as part of the AFC, I did not protect you, defend you. I'm sorry. You can't say that?
I was never a decision maker what happened to Charan. That's the decision.
You were part of the AFC, sir?
I was just a regular member, not an executive member. Charandas and I have several conversations prior to that, and you know, he know and he was voicing his concern the way things was happening.
So you cannot say...
When the thing happened there, the coalition make the decision to expel the man.
How do you feel about that? Don't you have an opinion on that?
I felt if...
Looking back now, sorry to cut you, and I know it's irritating. Looking back now with 2022, you can't say that that was a wrong down to Charandas, and you yourself...
Oh, it is because...
Sorry, you can't say that?
As I told you, when I sit at the RDC, and I refuse to attend some of the meeting prior to the RDC, they could have do the same to me, because I take a one-man approach at the RDC to start it to speak what I feel was right and how to do things. If they would have do that to me, I sure people would have said, well, that's wrong. Charandas would have known that we had discussion. He felt that, look, it is enough, and it's the same thing I was doing at the RDC. We take a different approach. You know, unfortunately, you know, he expelled, and after that, he gone his ways. I can't, you know, come out and say how it happened or how it was happening. He know what happened. What they did to the whole thing with Charandas, yes, it was wrong, but one has to look back. One has to look back and look. Who is these people among them? I was not in Parliament. I don't know how that thing worked. I think it works similar like the RDC. But, you know, at the end of the day, Sharon and me have different opinion, different objective, and different goal. I am not a person that will be a followers of something. I'm more of a leader model in my own way.
Thank you very much there, Mr. Harbhajan. You say that you're a developmental activist. I think that's a word. Activist for development in Berbice. What are some of the biggest problems facing Berbicians? I could tell you that I was just over in Suriname, and Freddie, we were driving from Naikiri, which is a border area in Suriname, to Paramaribo, the capital. And you know what I saw there that amazed me? I never saw it anywhere else. On the roadside, tractors, and they're miles and miles of fields. Tractors are not allowed to drive on the road. You have to drive in the grassy corner, and you're not allowed to drive on the roadways. And it's very, very simple. And you come across just 1 mile over the border into the Berbice. We see all kind of crazy things happening there, and they're not going to change. People are not changing the way that they do things. You go 20, 30 years back, it is the same thing. We see people driving on the road with the combines. We see people park badly, and I know that you've been very vocal in that. But I want you to also, while you're explaining some thoughts on that, I want you to also tell the people, maybe the government, some of the biggest concerns that you see coming out from the Berbicians.
Look, Berbice is predominantly agriculture, Gildarie. And we shared one highway. And over the decades, vehicles come in this country by the thousands, and it's all over. When you have tractors, combine trailers, and everything parked on the road shoulders, then it becomes dangerous. I believe rice farmer is facing farmers are facing some difficulties with access roads, and the same system the British left, the same one we only maintaining. We did not come up with nothing how to improve it. So that's the problem. So most of these farmers believe that in front of the gap of the road become a personal parking lot. And in the night, it's very dangerous, and even the day for pedestrian and motorists. And now I see the government coming up with a four-way lane from New Amsterdam to Crabwood Creek. And I think that if that's come, which is going to come in reality, it can ease some of those problems. But central government and the region need to start to focus on some of these main access agriculture dam. As you would have read in 2016 when I proposed the 58, 59 all-weather route from Public Road to Kanji Creek, from to Market Road, the coalition, it was in the news all over when I put that, the coalition shelved the idea then, and when the PPP government go in office in 2020, I approached them back with that, and I started to crank up that, and today it's a reality.
What are some of the biggest, the follow-up question, the question that I wanted to, what are Barbicians concerned about? What are some of the biggest problems facing them? Maybe 3 or 4 of them.
Barbician right now have Barbician looking for an ace to talk to and tell the problem. And I
But
don't
they
see,
have over 300 NDCs, councillors, 30 RDC councillors, plus
MPs.
parliamentarians.
I'm glad that we go there. I'm sure they're watching. How many parliamentarian, this is where you should, this is how you improve a system, Mr. Freddie. How many parliamentarians in this country make one day available for the constituency and coming to people to reach them? How many councillors make one day of the month to reach with the community for improve the thing? This is where
Nagamootoo did that when he was Prime Minister?
None
did you
did.
tell him to do that?
No,
You didn't tell him to do
Nagamootoo,
that?
I'm talking about the councillors.
I'm talking about
The council, the
Nagamootoo.
central government does not tell a democratic elected RDC council, NDC councillor how to manage his constituency. If they do that, then that's wrong. It's unconstitutional. You cannot, if you go through local government and the people vote for Freddie, and I then up there as the ministry is telling you how to run your constituency, well, that's not democratic, Freddie. So if you are going to empower the central government to tell the councillors what to do, well, then you don't need local government election.
But you were part of the AFC, and you just said you were part of the second-tier leadership with Marlon Williams, and you couldn't influence your party leadership. That isn't democratic.
Influence them fit control the councillors and what to do?
No.
Because the councillor make the decision.
I mean, I'm not talking about council.
Right. Well, that's why I thought the topic was
You
on.
talk about initiatives that you could improve.
I think we got a little slant there.
No. I was saying you made a theoretical statement that you cannot interfere with an elected politician, with an elected official. That is not democracy. I made a leap and say, it's also not democracy when you have second-tier leadership like yourself, and first-tier leadership don't listen to second-tier leadership. But, Mr.
Freddie, when that started to happen, I go back to 2017, when I saw that, the most you could do, distance yourself from it and try to fix it. So then I collaborate with the RDC, and I started to take a different approach. If the PPP RDC councillors put something and they benefit the people I support, if I put something they support, so I have to take a different approach. I don't have to go for the second tier if they're not listening to the first tier. What you want me to dwell on that? You have to move on, you know, and that's what it costs. And it's still happening. It's been happening in the 70s. It's happening up to now. It's happening in the 23 years. And it's happening now as we speak. Until they fix that, to answer your question, these RDC councillors, member of parliament, and NDC chairman and overseer mayors, until they started to reach to the constituency and listen to the people problem, then central government can able to have a good result of what local government is doing. If not, every time the president or vice president or a minister run in a region, people are going to flock you with light bill, phone bill, Gaiwa bill, and those type of problem, and our drain blocked up. Until we fix that. And it's there, but the system is there. but the people behind the system.
Developmental activists or activists for development. What are some of the projects that you put to this government recently over the last couple of months that you say is going to make some major changes in the lives of Barbadians?
Every project or proposal I put, I make sure I send a copy to the vice president and his ministers within the ministry that will ministry fall under those
what
things.
What are some of these developments?
Some of the thing with cattle rustling, major access road, and how that to open up. Remember, one of the things, and I want to mention it here. As I mentioned, Barbados is predominantly agriculture and rice. 1 acre rice field now is going for $15,000 to $25,000 an acre. Government, the proposal I make with the 5859 All-Weather Road, Freddie, you can Google that. That will open up more land and reduce the rent and less strain on rice farmer financially. If you can drop the rent from 25,000 to 10, because most of the rice farmer renting land right now at a high rate. And that's the biggest expense for them because they have to go there. And this rice field been around since in the 60s, and there is no new land open up. So the land in the 60s was given to, let's say, Freddie and his grandfather give you a 15 acre. Freddie have 4 kids, the 15 acre there to them. So nothing new coming, so they scramble for that. So some of the proposal I put forward, and I see this government is listening, and they're listening at one, and they will engage in conversation.
I want us to think just before Freddie jumps in here, and I think we headed down to the home stretch. Why is Gobin Harbhajan and the Barbadians and the rest of the folks across Guyana in the rice growing community dealing with one of the biggest problems? Freddie Kissoon, do you know how many hundreds, I don't want to say thousands, of persons live overseas that have been given rice lands, and they live overseas and collect rent on those rice lands, and they're not here? All they just do is act as landlords. They don't do anything else. I think it's in direct contravention, or I think it's a breach of the conditions in which they would have been granted those lands. Have you started? Did you do an assessment? Because that has been something. Many of these people turn back and send the rice lands for millions of dollars, millions, tens of millions of dollars. Have you done anything? Because you spoke about the fact that many do not have rice lands and they're rented for thousands of dollars. Have you done anything to address that?
Nationally, Essequibo, Region 5, Region 6, I think there was a press release in 2017 or 18 I did there. We're over $3 billion. And the ground rice rent is going into the United States economy. These guys who own the land through lease migrated in the 70s and 80s and still hold ownership of these lease land. They will rent it for large amount of money. Come every 6 months, collect the rent, collect 2 month rent in advance. Let's say you have 100 acre multiplied by 30,000. That man is going with millions. And the rice farmer who renting the land has to pay up, and he got to take a loan to pay the rent, and then he got to work to make the money, So the real farmers, the real owner for the land live abroad with a remote flicking channel. Wells, the farmers down here struggling. So my thing is this, that's why I separate myself, and I'm promoting that more land need to open. You have a lot of mainland in this country never been touched. Open it up. Was where the British or where the late Jagan would open up in the 60s. Blackbush is still there. Nothing new come on stream. The one that I put in 2016 and the PEP make it a reality, the All-Weather Road, will bear fruit. Because that will see a reduction, and guys who planting rice thousands of acres, they renting, now they will be able to own some land.
Thank you very much, Freddie.
Would you admit then, if you examine your outlines for the past hour, would you admit then that the AFC, I'm not talking about APNU because
Freddie,
I know
Freddie, you can make some delivery, some Michael Holden delivery, but go ahead.
I know you can't speak for APNU. You said you were in AFC since 2005. Would you say then that the AFC was a failure in government?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any specific areas that you think?
And what are the areas that really lacerate your psyche, and you look back and you say, what was I doing here? What was I thinking? What are the real disgusting moments that revolted you? And you say, no.
When the top tier executive, prior to 2015 election, we go house to house. We were not given commercial. We were avoiding, because as a treasurer for Borbis Apno
Could we
AFC.
speak about the government?
Right.
My question was on the
Right,
government.
but when you last touch with the people, right, there goes the AFC. Most of the supporters become swing voters in 2020.
I wasn't talking about 2020, sir.
We headed out to the home stretch.
I was talking about the moment of disgust you felt between 2015 and 2020, that you felt that, no, they couldn't win the 2020 election. Look what have they done. What were the episodes? What were the moments of regrets? Quickly.
The leadership.
The leadership. And that includes Nagamootoo.
Yes, the whole top leadership.
And for the history book.
For any book.
For the history book, no.
My
no.
personal opinion, the
For the
leadership.
history book now, you think they constitute one of the biggest failures in colonial and post-colonial politics in Guyana?
Bring that a little bit more down.
Yes. You've gone a little too high there, Freddie.
No. I mean in colonial times and after colonial, that when you compare the PNC in government, PVP in government with the AFC, and don't you think
You
that...
can't compare there was a small third force which would have
There
a
were
hope.
what?
There was a third force
They
with a
had
hope.
7 ministers plus the prime minister. They were half of the government.
No, you're talking about the parties, and we're talking about with the coalition.
I'm talking about the AFC in government.
The AFC, right, but I give you the answer that I personally at the end, from 2017, I look at them and say, this is not where I want to be, so I drift.
Right.
You stayed on until
I
you
stayed on
resigned.
with the job,
Freddie.
not with the party, go back and check my membership.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd have to bring it to a close now. We've been advised. I want to say before I take my statements, obviously, Freddie, we have some news for next week with regards to the format of this show. Freddie might want to make a few statements and then...
The show has to go on. The semi-final of CPL is Wednesday. The final is Friday. But, as I said before in the last program, we have an obligation even to one person. We don't have an obligation. Our obligation is not based on numbers. Oh, there won't be 3,000 people looking, so we shouldn't have the show. No. We possibly will have our guests on Monday, and on Wednesday and Friday, we discuss topics, open the phone, and you bare your soul if you want to us. So there is a program Monday, and we take your calls Wednesday and Friday.
Thank you very much. Well, Mr. Harbhajan, I want to say thank you very much, sir, for turning up. Obviously, you didn't expect not to be on the scrutiny, and I think that you've attempted to answer the question, like I said to critic the other day. Any last words, just a few minutes to the people of Borbis and Guyana and all around the world who watch it?
The people across Guyana and all the councillors across this country, MPs, chairman, overseers, please go into your constituency, represent the people. Government is doing enough. Government is doing a lot of infrastructure. Take your responsibility and let's work together to move Guyana forward.
The power is in your hands, folks. So you need to take some decisions. So stand up. If you see something, say something. Do not allow, too long we say that's not our job, that's a government job, that's not our job, that's the police's job. We got to start taking responsibility for our neighborhoods. We got to take responsibility for what happened on the roadways. And of course, next week, we are going to lift this program to the next level because we need to hear from you. We've been interviewing people, I think it's about time that we start talking about the people's problems, and let's try to find some or work with the authorities to deal with some of the big issues affecting our nation. Freddie?
Gildarie, I did 4 columns. 4, let me put up my hand so viewers. I did 4 columns on the visa difficulty in Guyana. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I was simply dumbfounded, flabbergasted, whatever word you want to use, that the amount of people who have been wronged in their application for a visa from the different Western embassies in Guyana, the problems they have accessing a British visa because the British embassy passes out the visa thing to a private company, and there's no communication you can have with this private company. And I think we are going to open these phone lines from now until this show ends about people's problems, because you'd be amazed to know the amount of people with money, people with status, who are waiting for a British visa. One of them is a big name in business, Mr. Timothy Tucker, the head of the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce, waiting for a British visa.
Thank you very much, Freddie Kissoon, and our guest, Gobin Harbhajan, all the way from Region 6, East Berbice. And of course, if we don't start understanding it's not newfound wealth, but let's start respecting ourselves. Don't allow the years gone by where people put us to sit on the benches in different countries and they look down on us because we're a poor country. Let's start understanding where we are, start demanding the kind of respect, and be it from the embassies, the high commissions. We can start talking about it, start putting them on notice that we're not going to tolerate it. So ladies and gentlemen, my guest Gobin Harbhajan and my co-host Freddie Kissoon, have a pleasant rest of the evening until we see you on Monday. And may God smile upon us tomorrow. If Freddie Kissoon don't believe in God, that we do well. Amazon Warriors, we're rooting for you. Have a pleasant rest of the day.